Hello, dear Amazon shoppers. Who here has ever blown their whole paycheck online? I know I have, but that's not the point. After hearing today's stories, shopping won't feel like fun anymore. Enjoy the video.
My name's Ben. I bought a new lock for my front door on Amazon. The old one was getting sticky. I live in a decent suburb outside Cleveland. Nothing ever happens here. The lock arrived in a normal brown box. It was a simple deadbolt, brand name I'd never heard of, but the reviews were good. 5 stars, hundreds of them. I installed it myself on a Saturday afternoon. It fit perfectly, smoother than the old one. I felt safer. The first weird thing happened that Monday. I came home from work and found the new deadbolt unlocked. The knob lock was still engaged, but the deadbolt was turned to the open position. I was sure I'd locked it. I'm a lock it twice guy. I wrote it off as a busy morning. 2 days later, it happened again. This time, both locks were open. My door was just closed, not latched. I stood on my porch, keys in hand, feeling cold. I checked the windows. No signs of a break-in. Nothing was missing. My TV, my laptop, all right where I left them. I called a buddy who's a cop. He said maybe the lock was defective, sliding open from vibration. He told me to get a camera. So I did. I ordered a cheap indoor security cam from Amazon, same-day delivery. I pointed it at the front door from my living room. That night, I locked up extra careful. I watched the camera feed on my phone in bed. Nothing. At 2:17 a.m., the motion alert went off. I opened the app. The living room was dark, just the night vision glow. My front door was opening, not being kicked in, just swinging open slowly, like someone had a key. A figure walked in, a man. He was wearing a dark jacket. He didn't look around. He didn't take anything. He walked straight across my living room, past the camera, and into the hallway, toward my bedroom. I couldn't breathe. I was holding my phone, watching this man walk toward me in real time. I grabbed the baseball bat from beside my bed. I heard my own floor creak in the hallway. The feed showed an empty living room, the front door still wide open. Then, the man walked back into view. He left the same way he came. He pulled the door shut behind him. I heard the distinct click-click of both locks engaging. I stayed frozen until sunrise. When I finally came out, there was nothing, no trace. But on my kitchen counter, next to the coffee maker, was a small folded piece of paper. It was a packing slip for the lock I'd bought. The ship to address was mine. The sold by field wasn't the generic seller name I'd seen on Amazon. It was a person's name, James P. Hurst. I didn't make coffee. I drove straight to the police station. I showed them the video, the packing slip. They ran the name. The officer came back looking tired. He said, James P. Hurst. He's a locksmith. Or he was. He died 4 years ago. His business address was a P.O. box that's since been closed.
I asked how that was possible. How did I get a lock from a dead man? The cop shrugged. Third-party seller, probably someone using his old business stock. We'll file a report for the break-in. That wasn't good enough. Back home, I did what I should have done first. I scrolled past the 5-star reviews, way down to the 1-star reviews. There were only a few. They were all the same. Lock works fine, but someone keeps coming into my house at night. 5 stars for quality, 1 star for the nightly visits. Changed my locks. Do not buy, it comes with a ghost. That one was a joke, but it wasn't funny. Then I found a review from 2 weeks ago. It said, product arrived used, had scratches. Also, the key is weird. It has a little JPH engraved on the head. I ran to my key ring. I took off the new key. I held it under the lamp. There, tiny and precise, were the letters JPH. The twist. I thought the horror was someone with a master key, that the seller was somehow targeting buyers. I was wrong. The police came back a week later. They'd tracked down the seller's fulfillment center. It was a self-storage unit rented by a guy in Nevada. They arrested him. He wasn't James P. Hurst. He was a guy who bought old locksmith inventory at auctions. He sold the locks online. He swore he never made copies of the keys. He said the locks were all master-keyed systems from old apartment buildings or office complexes. He didn't know who had the other keys. He just sold the locks. The police told me I was safe. The guy was in custody. They changed my lock for me. Last night, my new police-installed lock failed. The deadbolt just wouldn't turn. The officer who came out to check it was apologetic. He said it was a bad brand, a factory defect. He replaced it with another one from his car. A good one, he said, a standard brand. This morning, I found a small folded note on my counter. It's a photocopy of a work order for the installation of a master key system at a large apartment complex in 2007. The complex was condemned in 2010. The work order is signed by the installing locksmith. The name at the bottom is smudged, but I can make out the first 3 letters. It's not JPH. It's the first 3 letters of the brand of lock the police officer installed last night.
I took a seasonal job at an Amazon return center for the holiday cash. The warehouse was a giant concrete building in the middle of Ohio farmland. My job was simple: open returned boxes, check the item, scan it, and sort it into a big bin. The first week was boring, just a river of unwanted junk. Kitchen gadgets with missing parts, cheap electronics that never worked, clothes that didn't fit. Then I got box 8117. It was a medium-sized box, the kind a small microwave would come in. The label was for a home decor item. It was light. I cut the tape. Inside was packing paper, a lot of it. I pulled it out. Underneath was a child's blanket, pale blue, worn, soft. That was it. No home decor. I picked up the blanket to check underneath. Something was sewn into the middle of it, a small, hard rectangle. I felt along the fabric. There was a rough slit. I put my fingers in and pulled out a plastic digital voice recorder, the cheap kind from a pharmacy. It had a little screen and a few buttons. I pressed play. A man's voice, whispering. He sounded scared. "If you're hearing this, you work at the return center. Don't ignore this, please. My name is David R. Milligan. I am trapped. They put me in here. They're going to ship me. You are my only hope. The box..." The recording cut off abruptly, like it had been stopped. I stared at it. My first thought was a sick prank, a returned voice recorder with some idiot's scary story on it. But the fear in his voice, it was real. It was the kind of shaky, breathless fear you can't fake. I showed it to my supervisor, Carl. He was a big guy, always chewing gum. He listened to the recording, his face blank. He shrugged. "Weird. Prank. Toss the recorder in e-waste. Textiles, next box." I didn't like it. "Shouldn't we call someone? Police?" Carl gave me a tired look. "You see the volume we handle? If we called the cops for every creepy thing that comes through here, they'd live here. It's a prank. Move on." I tried to move on, but for the rest of my shift, all I heard was that whisper, "They're going to ship me." That night, I Googled David R. Milligan missing person. Nothing came up. No news articles, no police bulletins. The next day, I was back at the conveyor belt. My mind wasn't on it. I kept looking at the boxes, wondering. Around lunch, a different box came to me, a large one, labeled exercise equipment damaged. It was heavy. I cut it open. More packing paper. I pulled it out. Underneath was a rolled-up rug, a thick Persian-style rug. It was bound with tight plastic straps. As I leaned in to scan the item's barcode, I saw something. Protruding from the end of the rolled-up rug was a hand, a man's hand.
pale, perfectly still. I stumbled back, hitting the bin behind me. My heart was a hammer. I stared. The hand didn't move. It looked waxy. I forced myself to look closer. The fingers were slightly curled. I saw dirt under the nails. This wasn't a mannequin. It was real.
I didn't yell. I didn't call Carl. I just ran. Off the floor, out the fire exit, into the parking lot. I called 911 from my car. The police arrived fast. They shut down the facility. They unrolled the rug in the middle of the warehouse, under the bright fluorescent lights. There was a body inside. A man in his 40s. He'd been dead for a while. He was dressed in ordinary clothes, jeans and a sweatshirt. No identification. The story hit the local news that night. Body discovered in Amazon returns center. They didn't give details. They said the investigation was ongoing. I gave my statement. I told them about the voice recorder, about David R. Milligan. They took it seriously. They took the recorder as evidence. A detective told me they'd run the name, check dental records. A week later, the detective called me. He said, "We identified the body. It's not David Milligan. We still don't know who David Milligan is. The recorder, it's a common model, no prints. The dead man in the rug, we have no leads. It's like he appeared from nowhere." I quit the job. I couldn't go back. The twist came a month later. I was trying to forget it all. I got a notification on my phone, a delivery confirmation for an Amazon package to my house. I hadn't ordered anything. The package was on my porch, a small, flat box, no return address. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a brand new digital voice recorder, same model as before. I pressed play. It was the same whispering voice, David R. Milligan, but the message was different. "You found the first one, thank you, but you went to the police. That was a mistake. Now they know someone is listening. The man in the rug, he was a warning to me, and now to you. They ship more than products. They ship problems. And they know your name, Ben. They have your address from the employee file. You're a return now, and all returns get processed." The recording ended. I looked at the box in my hands, the shipping label. In the upper corner, where the return address would be, was a single string of letters and numbers. It wasn't an address. It was my employee ID from the return center.
I bought a wedding ring on Amazon. I know how that sounds, but I was desperate. My girlfriend, Chloe, had found her grandmother's ring, and it was perfect, and she wanted to use the diamond but reset it. The jeweler quoted us $4,000. We didn't have it. I found a seller offering custom platinum settings for a fraction of the price. The reviews were stellar. "Indistinguishable from the high-end store," one said. I ordered it. The ring arrived in a nice velvet box. It looked perfect. Heavy, shiny, exactly like the design I'd uploaded. The seller had even engraved the inside for free. C&J forever. I gave it to the jeweler, who set the diamond. He looked at the setting, frowned, but said nothing. A week later, I proposed. Chloe said yes. She loved the ring. The first problem was a rash. A week after she started wearing it, a red, itchy line appeared on Chloe's finger under the band. We thought it was a nickel allergy, but platinum shouldn't do that. She took the ring off for a few days and it cleared up. She put it back on. The rash came back, worse this time, little bumps. We took it to a different jeweler. He put a drop of acid on a hidden part of the band. The metal fizzed slightly. "It's not platinum," he said flatly. "It's a white alloy, probably contains nickel, cobalt, who knows what. The engraving's laser, which is good work, but the metal is junk." I was furious. I felt like a fool. I went online to blast the seller with a 1-star review, but the store was gone. The entire seller account had vanished, poof, like it never existed. That's when Chloe made the discovery. She was cleaning the ring with a soft cloth, upset. "It's still beautiful," she said sadly. "It's a shame." As she polished the inside of the band, she noticed something. The engraving wasn't as deep as she thought. Under the bright bathroom light, she saw faint lines under the letters.
She came to me holding the ring and a magnifying glass. "Look." I held it under the lamp. The engraving C and J Forever was clear, but beneath it, very lightly, were the remnants of a previous engraving that had been polished almost away. We could barely make it out. K and A always. My blood went cold. This was a used ring, not just fake metal, but a used ring with someone else's engraving ground off. I took to the internet. I searched the phrase K and A always with engagement ring. I found nothing. I tried different spellings. For days, nothing. Then I found a post on a missing persons forum from 3 years ago. It was by a woman looking for her sister, Kimberly. The post was desperate, pleading for any information. It listed Kimberly's details. At the very bottom, it said, she never took off her ring. It was platinum, with K and A always inside. I showed Chloe. We didn't know what to do. We called the police in the town where Kimberly was from. We talked to a detective. He was polite, but distant. He said the case was cold. He said they'd had tips about the ring before, but it never led anywhere. He took our information and the seller details, which were useless. We decided to stop wearing the ring. Chloe put it in her jewelry box. We tried to forget.
2 months later, a man came to our door. It was a Saturday afternoon. He was in his 50s, wearing a suit that looked a little too big. He had kind eyes. He said he was a private investigator. He showed me a badge. "I'm looking into the disappearance of Kimberly Andrews," he said. "I understand you may have come into possession of her engagement ring." I was stunned. I let him in. I told him the whole story. Amazon, the fake metal, the engraving. He listened carefully, taking notes. He asked to see the ring. Chloe got it from the bedroom. He examined it with a small loupe. He nodded slowly. "This is it. This is Kimberly's. The family will be relieved to have it back for closure." He looked at us. "I need to take it for evidence, of course, but the family has authorized me to offer you a reimbursement for what you paid, as a courtesy." He pulled out an envelope. Inside was $500 in cash, exactly what I'd paid the Amazon seller. It felt weird, but also right. The ring was a sad thing, a piece of a tragedy. We gave it to him. He thanked me, gave me a receipt, and left. The twist hit me that night. I was lying in bed, and something nagged at me. The receipt. I got up and found it. It was a generic carbon copy slip. It had the PI's name printed at the top, Alton Investigations. I typed the name and the city into my phone. The first result was an obituary for Henry Alton, private investigator. He died 2 years ago. My hands started to shake. I called the phone number on the receipt. It was disconnected. I called the detective from Kimberlystown the next morning. I told him about the PI. There was a long silence. "Sir," the detective said, his voice low, "Kimberly's fiancé, Andrew. His middle name was Alton. Andrew Alton. He was the prime suspect. He claimed she ran off. He said she took the ring with her. We never found it. We never found her. Andrew Alton died in a car accident a year after she disappeared." The line was quiet. I could hear my own heartbeat. So the man who came to my house wasn't a PI, the detective finished. The ring was the only piece of physical evidence linking Andrew to her disappearance. Without it, the case was nothing. Someone just collected the last piece of evidence. I asked, "Who was he?" The detective's voice was grim. "I don't know. But if Andrew had family, someone who wanted to clear his name for good, or someone who knew what really happened and wanted it buried forever, they have the ring now." He thanked me and hung up. Chloe asked me what was wrong. I told her we did the right thing.
I didn't tell her about the obituary. I didn't tell her that the man with the kind eyes paid us exactly what I paid the Amazon seller. I just held her hand, the one that used to wear the ring. The skin was smooth now, no rash.
I rented a storage unit online through Amazon Home Services. It was a deal, first month for $1. My apartment was small, and I had my dad's old stuff after he passed. Furniture, boxes of his things. I just needed a place to put it all for a little while. The facility was called Storie Secure. It was a long, one-story building off a highway in rural Pennsylvania. The place was automated. I got a code via email to open the main gate and another code for my specific unit, #42. No office, no manager on site. It was all digital. I loaded my dad's pickup with his stuff and drove out there. The place was silent, just rows of orange roll-up doors under a flat gray sky. I found #42, punched in my code. The door rattled up. The unit was clean, empty, about the size of a walk-in closet. I unloaded the truck. It took a couple of hours. I left his old armchair, his desk, and 5 cardboard boxes sealed with tape. When I was done, I pulled the door down. It locked with a solid thunk. I drove away feeling lighter. A week later, I got an automated email. "Welcome to your second month at Storie Secure. Your card has been charged $89.99. I hadn't signed up for a second month. I tried to cancel on the website, but there was no option. The Contact Us page was just an FAQ, no phone number. I drove back out there. The gate code still worked. The place was just as empty and quiet. I went to Unit 42. I punched in my code. The light on the keypad turned red, code invalid. I tried again, red. I tried the original email. I typed the code exactly, red. Now I was mad. I started walking down the row, looking for a camera, an intercom, anything. Nothing, just silent units. As I passed Unit 39, I heard a sound, a slow, dragging sound, like something heavy being pulled across concrete inside the unit. I stopped. "Hello?" I said. The dragging stopped. Probably a raccoon, I told myself, or another customer. I went back to my truck to call the bank and dispute the charge. No cell service. One bar that came and went. I decided to wait. Someone had to show up eventually. I sat in my truck for an hour. No one came. But I saw something. A black van pulled up to the main gate. It didn't use a code. The gate just opened for it. The van drove in and went around to the back of the building, out of sight. I got out and followed on foot, keeping close to the units. I peeked around the corner. The van was backed up to an oversized unit at the far end, door open. 2 men were unloading large, heavy-duty black plastic bags from the van. The bags were long and bulky. They weren't gentle with them. They tossed them into the unit with a soft, thick sound. One of the men turned. He had a beard and wore work gloves. He wasn't looking at me, he was looking at his partner, saying something I couldn't hear. They finished, rolled the unit door down, and got in the van. I ducked ack as they drove past. My heart was pounding. I didn't know what was in those bags, but I knew that sound. It was the sound of something dense and soft. I ran back to my unit. I had to get my dad's stuff and get out. The code still didn't work. In a panic, I grabbed the bottom of the door and pulled upward. It was heavy, but it gave a little. I pulled harder, putting my back into it. The door went up about a foot and jammed. I got on my knees and looked inside. The unit was empty. My dad's armchair, his desk, and the 5 cardboard boxes, gone. The concrete floor was swept clean. I crawled under the door and stood up in the middle of the empty space. There was nothing. No sign anything had ever been here. I felt a deep, cold wrongness. Then I saw it. In the far corner, where the wall met the floor, was a small, dark stain. It was fresh. I walked over. It was a smudge, like something had been dragged through it. It was reddish-brown. I heard a motor sound, the main gate opening. I dropped flat and looked under the door. The black van was driving back in. This time, it stopped near my row.
I was trapped. The door was jammed open just a foot. I couldn't get out without being seen. I looked around the empty unit for a weapon. Anything. Nothing. I heard footsteps, 2 pairs, walking slowly down the row. They stopped outside my unit. A man's voice, bored. "This the one?" "42, another voice said. The bearded man from the van. Guy disputed the charge, automated flag. "Clean?" "Last week, standard repossession. Furniture's gone. Just need to reset the code and relist." The first man grunted. "Check it." The door above me suddenly rattled and began to rise. Light flooded in. I was crouched in the corner next to the stain, completely exposed. The bearded man stood there, holding a remote. He saw me. His eyes widened. He wasn't scared. He looked annoyed. "What the hell are you doing in here?" he said. "This is private property." I stammered. "My stuff. This is my unit. You took my stuff." The taller man and thinner stepped into view. He looked from me to the stain in the corner. His face went still. The bearded man followed his gaze. He saw the stain. His annoyance vanished, replaced by something cold and calculating. The twist wasn't that they were criminals. I'd already guessed that. The twist was what they did next. The bearded man smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. "Oh," he said, his voice calm. "I see. You're not here about the furniture dispute at all, are you?" The taller man stepped fully into the unit, blocking the door. "No," he said quietly. "He's here about the previous tenant of Unit 42. They both looked at me. The bearded man pulled out his phone, not to call the police. He typed something. "Standard repossession clears the unit," he said, almost to himself. "But sometimes the previous tenants leave a mess, a dispute. They need handling." I finally found my voice. "I don't know anything about a previous tenant. I just want my dad's things." The taller man nodded. "I believe you, but you saw the van. You're in the unit. You saw the stain." He sighed, like I was an inconvenience. "The service we provide is discretion. Automated, quiet, clean. No questions. You're a question." The bearded man put his phone away. "We can't have you going to the real police, but we're not monsters. You wanted to cancel your rental? Consider it canceled. No fee. We'll even help you move." "Move what?" I said. "There's nothing here." He smiled that cold smile again. "Exactly." They stepped toward me. I backed up until I hit the wall. The taller man spoke softly. "The thing about Storie Secure is that it's very secure and very, very private. Units get relisted all the time. New code, new tenant, no one asks about the old one." The last thing I saw was the bearded man pulling a roll of heavy-duty black plastic bags from his pocket. The aftermath is this. I woke up in a different unit. I don't know the number. The door was open. It was night. I was alone. My truck was in the parking lot, keys in the ignition. My wallet was on the seat. Nothing missing. I never got my dad's things back. I never called the police. What would I say? I have no proof, no stain. The code for Unit 42 was changed again. When I looked up Storie Secure online, the website was gone. The Amazon Home Services listing had vanished. But last month, I got an email from an unknown sender. The subject line was, "Your recent purchase." The body just said, "Thank you for choosing Storie Secure. Your monthly payment of $89.99 has been processed. We hope you are enjoying the extra space." There was a link to Manage Your Unit. I didn't click it. I drive a different way to work now. I avoid that highway. But sometimes at night, I get a notification on my phone. A reminder. It just says, "Storage payment due.
I never signed up for reminders.
I hired a handyman through Amazon Home Services to fix my deck. My wife, Sarah, was 8 months pregnant. We wanted the old wobbly stairs safe before the baby came. The handyman's name was Ray. His profile had over 100 five-star reviews. Ray showed up on time. He was in his late 40s, quiet, with strong, careful hands. He didn't talk much. He just got to work. I watched him for a bit from the kitchen window. He was methodical, replacing the rotten wood with precise cuts. He seemed fine. The first day, he finished the stairs and started on the railings. When he left, I went out to check. The work was solid, better than I could have done. Sarah was happy. The second day, Ray was back in the morning. I had to go to the office. Sarah was home, working remotely from the living room. I told her to just leave Ray to it, call me if she needed anything. I got a text from Sarah around noon. Ray's asking weird questions. I called her. She whispered, "He's not being creepy exactly. He's just asking a lot. About our families, if our parents live close, what hospitals we like. He said he has 3 kids of his own. He knows a lot about babies." I felt a prickle of unease. "Do you want me to come home?" No, she said. "He's almost done. The work is really good. Just hurry home if you can." I left work early. When I pulled into the driveway, Ray's truck was still there. The deck looked finished. Ray was standing by his truck, not packing up. He was talking to Sarah, who was standing on the porch, arms crossed over her belly. She looked uncomfortable. I got out. "Hey, everything okay?" Ray turned. He smiled. It was a normal smile. "Just finished up, explaining the sealant to your wife. Needs 48 hours to cure." He handed me an invoice. The price was exactly the quote. I paid him through the app. He thanked me, got in his truck, and left. Sarah came to me. He asked if we had a nursery set up. I said yes. He asked which room. I pointed to the upstairs window. Then he said, "That's a good, quiet room. Safe." It was the way he said safe, like it was a threat. We locked the doors that night. We wrote it off as pregnancy nerves and a guy who was just overly friendly. 2 days later, the sealant was dry. The deck was perfect. We tried to forget about Ray. A week after that, a package arrived. No return address. It was a small, heavy box. Inside, packed in shredded paper, was a beautiful hand-carved wooden rattle. It was smooth, polished oak. There was no note. Sarah loved it. "It's gorgeous. Maybe it's from your mom," she said. My mom said she didn't send it. Neither did hers. We asked friends. No one knew. A few days later, another package. This time, a baby blanket, hand-knit, soft white wool. Again, no note. Now we were worried. Sarah put the rattle and blanket in the closet. We didn't want to use them. I checked our Amazon order history. Nothing. These were sent direct mail. The postmark was local. Then the photos started arriving in the mail, printed on regular copy paper in standard white envelopes. No stamps. Hand-delivered. The first photo was of our house, taken from the street. The next was a closer shot, focused on the new deck. The third was a photo of Sarah's car in the grocery store parking lot. We called the police. They took a report. They said it was likely a stalker, maybe Ray, but without proof, there was little they could do. They told us to get cameras. We did. We installed them front and back. The cameras caught nothing, but the packages kept coming. A teething ring, a small stuffed bear, always high-quality, handmade things, always no note. Sarah was terrified. She went to stay with her sister. I stayed in the house, waiting.
One night, the doorbell camera alert went off. I looked at my phone. It was 3 a.m. The camera showed a package on the front porch. No person. It must have been placed there from just out of frame. I didn't go out. I watched the live feed. 10 minutes later, a figure walked into view. It was Ray. He didn't look at the camera. He walked right up to the door, picked up the package he had just delivered, and walked away. My blood froze. He was toying with us, letting us see him. I called the police, showed them the footage. They said they'd pay him a visit. They did. Ray had an alibi for the 3 a.m. delivery. His wife said he was in bed. The police said the footage was too dark to be definitive. They said it was a civil matter unless he made a direct threat. Sarah refused to come home. I was a wreck. I decided to confront him myself. I had his address from the original work order. I drove to his house. It was a modest, well-kept place in a normal neighborhood, a tricycle in the yard. I knocked. His wife answered. She looked tired. I asked for Ray. "He's not here," she said softly. "He's at the hospital." "Hospital?" Her eyes were sad. "Our daughter, she's not well. She's been in and out for months. Ray's been there every night after work. It's been so hard." I felt a confusing mix of anger and pity. "I need to talk to him about some work he did." She gave me the hospital name and floor. I drove there, my mind racing. I found Ray in a pediatric oncology ward. He was sitting in a chair next to a hospital bed, holding the hand of a little girl, maybe 6 years old, who was asleep. She was bald, connected to tubes. He looked up and saw me. He didn't look surprised. He looked exhausted. He stood and walked out into the hall with me. "The packages," I said, my voice tight. He nodded slowly. "They were hers," he said, his voice hollow. "My lilies. The rattle, the blanket, the bear. She outgrew them. She wanted another baby to have them." He looked at the floor. "She asked me to send them before she got too sick. She picked your house because your wife was pregnant. She saw her in the yard. She thought it would be a nice surprise." I stared at him. "The photos?" "To see the baby," he whispered. "She kept asking if the baby had used her things. I told her I didn't know. She asked me to check. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to explain. I just took the pictures to show her, to make her happy." The twist wasn't a stalker. The twist was a dying little girl's wish. "Why didn't you just tell us?" I asked, my anger deflating. "I tried. That day on the deck, I was working up to it, but your wife looked so scared of me. And then you called the police." I panicked. "I thought if I told the truth, you'd think it was a lie and it would get worse." He looked back at his daughter's room. "I just wanted to do this one thing for her." I didn't know what to say. The horror wasn't malice. It was grief spilling over in the worst way. I went home. I told Sarah everything. She cried. We brought the rattle and blanket out of the closet. We used them for our son when he was born. We never got another package. A month after our son came home, I saw an obituary for Lily, age 6. I still have the rattle. My son loves it. Sometimes I look at it and I don't see a beautiful handmade toy. I see a man on my porch at 3 a.m. holding a package, trying to give his dying daughter a little peace in the only broken way he knew how. And it chills me more than any stalker ever could. I bought a vintage military jacket on Amazon from a third-party seller called Surplus Treasures. I collect that stuff. This one was a U.S. Army field jacket from the 1970s, Vietnam era. It was in great condition, a little faded but no rips or stains. It even had a name tag sewn on the chest, Capoletti. It fit perfectly. I wore it to a buddy's barbecue. That's where things got weird. My friend Mike pulled me aside. "Dude, where'd you get that jacket?" I told him. He got quiet. "My dad was in Nam," he said. He said guys would sometimes strip the name tags off gear before they sold it, for privacy or because the guy didn't make it home. Having a name on it, it's kinda heavy. I felt a little creeped out, but also figured it was part of the history. I kept wearing it. A week later, I was at the gas station. An older man, maybe in his 70s, was pumping gas next to me. He stared at my jacket hard. He had a military haircut, worn thin. "Where'd you get that?" he asked, his voice gravelly. "Online," I said. "Are you a relative?" "Of who?" He pointed a shaky finger at the name tag, Cappelletti. "Frank Cappelletti." I said no, I just bought the jacket. The old man's face changed. He looked pale. He just shook his head, got in his car, and drove off without another word. That got to me. I went home and did a search. Frank Cappelletti, Vietnam. It took some digging, but I found a record. Private First Class Frank R. Cappelletti, 101st Airborne. Reported missing in action, 1971. Presumed dead. There was a photo on a memorial page. A young guy, smiling, in uniform. Now the jacket felt different. It felt like a grave. I took it off and put it in the back of my closet. 2 days later, my doorbell rang. It was late evening. I looked through the peephole. An elderly woman stood there, small, neat, holding a purse. I opened the door. "Can I help you?" Her eyes went straight to the jacket, which I'd hung on a hook in the hallway. I hadn't put it away yet. "My name is Eleanor," she said. Her voice was soft. "I'm sorry to bother you. A man at the VFW said he saw a jacket with my brother's name, Frank. Is that it?" I didn't know what to say. I just nodded. Tears welled in her eyes. May I see it?" I took the jacket down and handed it to her. She held it gently like it was a baby. She traced the name tag with her fingers. Then she felt along the inner seams, the pockets. She stopped at the inner chest pocket. Her fingers probed something. "There's something here," she whispered. As I watched, she carefully unstitched a tiny, almost invisible seam at the bottom of the inner pocket. Inside the lining, she pulled out a small, folded square of plastic. It was an old Ziploc bag, yellowed with age. Inside was a piece of paper. Her hands trembled as she opened it. It was a letter, written in faded pencil on notebook paper. "If you find this, I didn't make it. My name is Frank Cappelletti. I am being held in a bamboo cage. They move me every few days. There are 3 others. Tell my sister Ellie I love her. Tell her I didn't run. The man who took us is called the River Snake. He wears a gold necklace with a tooth. I heard them say they're taking us to a place called the Stone Farm. I don't know where that is. I'm sorry." The date at the bottom was October 12th, 1971, 2 days after he was listed as MIA.
Eleanor, Ellie, sank onto my doorstep, clutching the letter to her chest, sobbing. 50 years of not knowing, and here was an answer, in my hallway. We called the police. They called the army. It became a whole thing. Historians, military investigators. The jacket was taken as evidence. The news did a small story. MIA soldier's final message found in jacket sold online. I was a footnote, the guy who bought the jacket. I was glad, in a way, to have helped, but I felt haunted. The twist came from the investigator who called me a month later, a major from the Army's past conflicts office. "Mr. Cappelletti's remains were never recovered," he said. "This letter is a significant clue, but we've hit a wall. The River Snake was a known Viet Cong operative. He was killed in '72. The Stone Farm doesn't match any known location in our records." I asked,
So what happens now? He paused. The jacket itself, its provenance, the seller. We tracked the Amazon seller, Surplus Treasures. It's a guy in Oregon. He buys lots from estate sales, storage auctions. He had no idea about the letter. He got the jacket in a bulk purchase from a storage unit in Texas. The unit belonged to a former Army supply clerk who died in 2010. We think the clerk took souvenirs. That made me sick. So it was stolen property? I asked. In a manner of speaking. But that's not the strange part, the major said. His voice was careful. The unit. We searched the clerk's records. He had dozens of items, but the unit had been cleared out and sold years ago. The Amazon seller only got a fraction of the contents. The rest was scattered. I don't understand, I said. The letter, the major said. It was sewn into the lining, expertly, almost undetectable. Private Cappelletti in a bamboo cage didn't have a needle and thread. He didn't have a Ziploc bag from the 1970s. That letter was placed there later by someone who wanted it found, but not too easily. Someone who knew the story. A chill went through me. Who? We don't know. The clerk? Maybe. But why sew it in and then sell the jacket? It doesn't fit. Unless what? Unless the person who sewed it in wasn't the seller. They used the Amazon seller, the random sale, as a delivery system to clear the truth without being connected to it. I thought of the old man at the gas station, the veteran. Could it be one of the others from the letter? One of the three? The major's voice was very quiet. The other 3 MIAs from that incident, their remains were identified and returned in 1988. They came home. Frank didn't. The line was silent. So someone knows more, I said. Yes, the major said. Someone who was there. Someone who came home and has been carrying this for 50 years. And they chose you, a random stranger, to finally carry the message. They're clearing their conscience from a distance. He thanked me and hung up. I still think about it. I wasn't haunted by a ghost. I was used as a dead drop by a living man. A man who knows where Frank Cappelletti is buried, but will never, ever say. He just needed one person to know that Frank didn't run. Sometimes I look at other vintage jackets online. I wonder how many other secrets are sewn into the linings, waiting for the right buyer to click Add to Cart.
I wrote a 1-star review on Amazon. It was for a pocket knife, a tactical survival knife. It was cheap garbage. The blade dulled after cutting a single cardboard box. The handle was loose. I said exactly that in my review. I posted a picture of the bent blade. 2 days later, I got a comment on my review from the seller, Survival Gear Pro. It said, "We are sorry for your dissatisfaction. Please contact us for a full refund and replacement. We stand by our products." I emailed them. They responded fast. They apologized again. They said they'd process a full refund immediately, no need to return the knife. They asked me, as a courtesy, if I would consider updating my review to reflect their good customer service. I said maybe, if the refund came through. The refund hit my account the next morning. I was impressed. I updated my review. I didn't delete the 1 star, but I added an update. Seller made it right with a quick refund. Good customer service. I thought that was the end of it. A week later, another package from Survival Gear Pro arrived. It was a new knife, a better model. A note said, "Thank you for your understanding. Please accept this upgrade as our apology." It was a nice knife, sharp, solid. I put it in my toolbox. Then the emails started. Not from the seller, from a Gmail address. The first one said, "Your updated review is appreciated. Consistency is key."
It was weird, but I figured it was an automated thank you. I deleted it. The next email came a day later. The review ecosystem must be balanced. You helped maintain balance. Now I was creeped out. I didn't respond. The day after that, a photo arrived in an email. No text. It was a picture of a different product on Amazon, a camping lantern. It had a 1-star review. The review read, "Stopped working after 2 hours. Junk." The photo was a screenshot. I didn't know what to make of it. I blocked the email address. The following week, I came home from work and found a small box on my porch. No shipping label, just my name handwritten on the top. Inside was the camping lantern from the screenshot. I took it out. It looked fine. I put batteries in it. It turned on. It worked perfectly. An hour later, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Check the lantern reviews. I pulled up the Amazon page for that exact lantern. The 1-star review was gone. In its place was a new 5-star review. Great lantern, bright and long-lasting. The username was different. The review was posted that afternoon. My skin crawled. The text came again. Balance restored. Your cooperation is noted. I texted back, "Who is this? What do you want?" The response was immediate. "We are reviewers. We maintain integrity. You were fair. You are now part of the network." I threw the lantern in the trash. I told myself to ignore it. It was just some obsessive seller with too much time. I was wrong. A few days later, I got a notification that a package was delivered. I hadn't ordered anything. It was a heavy box. I opened it. It was full of various Amazon items. A phone charger, a set of screwdrivers, a garden hose nozzle, a coffee mug. All cheap stuff. At the bottom of the box was a note, printed. It said, "Review these products honestly. Links enclosed. Your continued partnership is valued." I was angry now. I took the box, drove to a UPS store, and shipped it back to the return address on the original knife order. It was a warehouse address in Nevada.
That night, my doorbell camera caught a man placing another box on my porch. He wore a hoodie. He didn't look at the camera. He just walked away. The box contained a single, expensive-looking fishing reel. The note said, 5 stars, or balance will be sought. I finally called the police. They listened. They said it was harassment, but without a credible threat, it was a low priority. They suggested I change my email and phone number. I did. It stopped for a month. I started to relax. Then I got a new Amazon account notification. "You have a new follower." I clicked. It was a profile called Review Sentinel. It had no reviews. It just followed me. I tried to forget it. I focused on work. I had a big presentation. The day before the presentation, my boss called me into his office. His face was stern. "Did you post a 1-star review for Crestline office supplies?" he asked. I was confused. "What? No." He turned his monitor. It showed an Amazon review for a very expensive office printer. The 1-star review was scathing. It said the printer was always jamming, that the company was a scam. The review was under my name, not my username, my real name, which I never use online. Mark J. from Chicago. That's me. "I didn't write this," I said, panic rising. "My wife saw it," my boss said, coldly. "Crestline is our biggest client. They called me, furious. They think we're sabotaging them." I tried to explain. It sounded insane, a conspiracy over a bad knife review. My boss suspended me pending an investigation. I raced home, desperate to prove it wasn't me. I logged into my Amazon account. My review history was empty. My 1-star knife review was gone. My update praising the seller was gone, all of it deleted. But there was a new review from yesterday for the office printer, 1 star, under my profile. I tried to delete it. I couldn't. The account was locked. A message said, "Account under review for suspicious activity." I was ruined.
My professional reputation was destroyed over a printer I'd never seen. The twist came the next morning. An email arrived in my new private email address. Only 3 people had it. It was from Survival Gear Pro. The subject line, "A lesson in balance." The email read, "You were given a chance to be a fair reviewer. You were brought into the network. You rejected it. You returned the products. You went to the police. The ecosystem must be balanced. For every negative you removed, your knife review, a negative had to be created. The printer review. Balance is now restored. Your association with us is terminated. Do not contact us again." I stared at the screen. This wasn't about punishing me for a bad review. It was about recruiting me. When I updated my review, I showed I was reasonable. I could be balanced. They wanted me to become one of them, someone who secretly polices reviews, who takes bribes in the form of free products to change bad reviews or post good ones. When I refused, I became a target, not to hurt me, but to replace the negative review I'd taken away. They needed the 1-star count in their system to stay the same. So they fabricated one, using my identity to balance the books. They're not trolls, they're auditors for the review economy. And I failed their interview. I lost my job. Crestline dropped my company as a client. I'm fighting it, but how do you prove you didn't write a review? I check my Amazon account every day. It's still locked. But sometimes I get notifications. Your review for Tactical Survival Knife was helpful to 127 people. It's gone. I can't see it. But the system remembers. The system always remembers. And somewhere, someone is keeping the books balanced.
I bought a house. It was a foreclosure at the edge of a new development in Arizona. A steal. The previous owner had vanished, and the bank just wanted it gone. It was empty, clean, and completely bland. Beige walls, beige carpets. The only thing left behind was a large, sturdy wooden workbench in the garage. It was bolted to the concrete floor. I figured I'd keep it. The house felt fine at first. Just a house. Then the deliveries started. Amazon boxes, addressed to the previous owner, Arthur V. Doyle. The first one was a subscription order, cat food. I didn't have a cat. I marked it "Return to Sender" and left it on the porch. The carrier took it. A week later, another box, kitchen towels. Again, Arthur V. Doyle. I returned it. It kept happening. Every week, like clockwork. A small box, always something mundane. Light bulbs, dish soap, batteries. I couldn't contact the seller to stop it because it was from multiple sellers. I couldn't contact Arthur Doyle. He was gone. I started just keeping the stuff. Free paper towels, why not? It felt weird, but throwing it away felt worse. After about 2 months of this, the deliveries changed. The boxes got bigger, heavier. The first big one contained a case of motor oil. I don't own the car model it was for. The next was a giant bag of fertilizer. I don't have a lawn. It's Arizona. It's all rock and cactus out here. I stacked it all in the garage, next to the workbench. The garage started to look like a storage unit for a ghost. I finally called Amazon. After an hour on hold, a very tired customer service rep said he'd flagged the address for the previous owner. He couldn't stop third-party shipments, but he'd note it. The deliveries didn't stop. The next box was long and flat. Inside was a rubber floor mat, the kind for standing on at a workbench. It was exactly the size of the space in front of the old workbench in my garage. That's when the chill set in. This wasn't random subscriptions. This was a list, a shopping list for a life that wasn't being lived anymore. I dragged the mat to the garage. I unrolled it in front of the workbench. It fit perfectly. I stood there in the silence, looking at the bench, the mat, the growing pile of supplies. It looked like someone was about to start a project. That night, I heard a noise from the garage, a single loud thump. I went out with a flashlight. Nothing was disturbed, but the roll of paper towels from one of the boxes had fallen off the pile. It was lying in the middle of the new floor mat. I told myself it was the house settling.
The next delivery was the worst. It was a heavy, cold box. Special live delivery requiring a signature. I wasn't home, so they left a notice. I went to the pickup center. The box had air holes. The label said, "Live insects, beneficial nematodes for pest control in soil." I don't have soil. I refused the package. The clerk looked relieved. Driving home, my mind raced. Arthur Doyle was preparing for something. Gardening, car work, but he vanished. Where did he go? And why was his Amazon list still running? I decided to tear out the workbench. It felt like the anchor of the whole thing. I got my toolbox. I loosened the 4 large bolts holding it to the floor. They came up hard, screeching. When I lifted the bench to drag it away, I saw what was underneath. The concrete floor beneath the bench was different. It was a perfect rectangle of newer, smoother concrete. It had been patched. My mouth went dry. I got a sledgehammer from the pile of delivered stuff. I swung it down on the new concrete. It cracked on the 3rd hit. It was thin. I broke it up and pulled the chunks away. Underneath was dirt, and buried in the dirt was a large, heavy-duty black plastic bag, the kind you get at hardware stores, the kind contractors use. I didn't want to open it, but I had to know. I cut the thick plastic with a utility knife. Inside was another bag, a white one, and a smell, old and earthy, filled the garage. Inside the white bag were bones and clothes, decayed but recognizable, a plaid shirt, jeans, and a wallet. I didn't touch anything else. I backed away, called 911, and waited on the curb. The police came. The coroner came. They confirmed it was a body. The ID in the wallet was Arthur V. Doyle. The story was all over the news. Body of missing homeowner found under garage workbench. I was not a suspect. The forensic guy said he'd been there for years, long before I bought the house. The twist wasn't that I found a body. The twist came from the detective a week later. He came by to give me an update. "We tracked down his next of kin," the detective said, "a brother in Florida. He said Arthur was a loner, a prepper, really into self-sufficiency, had a lot of online subscriptions for supplies. The brother tried to cancel them when Arthur vanished, but he didn't have all the passwords. Some just kept shipping." I nodded, looking at my garage door. So the deliveries were just on autopilot. "Yeah," the detective said. He hesitated. "There's one more thing. The brother said Arthur was paranoid, thought someone was after him. He'd ordered security cameras, but we didn't find any. The brother said Arthur would have installed them himself. He was handy."
I thought of the workbench, the mat, the motor oil. He was building something down here, or hiding something. The detective looked at me. We think the person who killed him knew about the subscriptions, knew the house would look occupied. The deliveries piling up on the porch. It's a good way to make it seem like someone's home, to buy time. So the killer used his own Amazon list as a cover? I asked, feeling sick. Maybe, the detective said. Or maybe the killer is the one who continued the list. The brother said he only canceled the ones he knew about. Someone else had the password. Someone else kept a few key items coming to maintain the illusion, even after the bank took the house and it sold to you. To make sure no one got suspicious and went looking in the garage for a long, long time. He left soon after. I had the garage floor professionally re-poured. I cancel every stray delivery that comes. But last week, a small box arrived. No return address. It was addressed to me. Inside was a single item, a security camera, the wireless kind, the exact model Arthur Doyle's brother said he'd ordered before he died. There was no note, but the camera was already set to connect to a Wi-Fi network, a network named Stone Farm. I smashed it with a hammer. I buried the pieces in the desert. But I can't sleep because I keep thinking about the detective's theory. The killer didn't just use Amazon to cover up a murder. They used it to maintain the scene of the crime for years. And now they know I'm here, and they know I found him. The final delivery wasn't for Arthur. It was for me. A message, a receipt, proof that the list is still active and the person managing it is still out there. The house isn't empty anymore. It's full of his things, and someone is still checking out.
If you liked the story, subscribe and like it, and also write a comment about what topic you would like to hear about.